Welcome back to FYIdaho. Our guest today is best-selling author, editor, and speaker David Horowitz. David, you wrote a book called One Party Classroom, where you cite more than 150 specific courses revealing how academic standards have been violated, ensuring the systematic indoctrination in radical politics and liberal arts curriculum. Tell us a little bit about
Sure. These 150 courses were identified at 12 major universities, and I could have gotten 300 or 400. I just chose courses which it was self-evident if you looked at the curriculum, at the syllabus, at the course description in the university catalog, that they're indoctrination courses. They're not academic courses. They're not courses to examine doctrines. They're courses to shove them down students' throats. Now, if I identified 150 in 12 universities, since there are 4,000 four-year schools in America, that comes out to 40 or 50,000 indoctrination courses that are now going on, financed mainly by conservatives, but by taxpayers, by Republican legislatures. This is the big problem in America is that conservatives have to wake up. The Tea Parties are a beginning, but there's a lot of waking up to do. The left has been left free to just march through our institutions and take them over. I'll give you an example of an indoctrination course, of a course that should not be in a university the way it's structured. At the University of California, Santa Cruz, there's a seminar which is described in the university catalog in these exact words. The goal of this seminar is to learn how to organize a revolution. And then it explains that the revolution is an anti-capitalist revolution. In other words, this Marxist professor, at taxpayer expense, and with a hefty salary, and with tenure, a lifetime job, and only working 8 months out of the year, and 9 hours a week, is using those taxpayer dollars to recruit students to overthrow the government that's financing this. This isn't democracy. This is stupidity, is what this is. As Supreme Court Justice Jackson said, the Constitution is not a suicide pact. Professors don't have the license to say anything they like in the classroom. Free speech, the First Amendment, is not operative in a university classroom. If it were, when you hire a physics professor or a geography professor, they could teach students that the world is flat and then say, well, it's my First Amendment right to say whatever I please. These people are paid exorbitant salaries and underworked and just extremely privileged because they're supposed to be experts in a field and they're supposed to teach their expertise. So if you're teaching revolution, you could have a seminar on revolution. You would, first of all, look at the word revolution and see what a lot of people have very different attitudes towards revolution. And then there have been very, different kinds of revolutions. The French Revolution was different from the American, which was certainly different from the Bolshevik Revolution. But this course does none of those things. It's about how to organize an anti-capitalist revolution. It's a technical course, if you like, a professional course for revolutionaries. This is not something that the taxpayers of the California actually signed on to. There is a standing order of the regents of the University of California which says that using a classroom for partisan purposes is an abuse of the university. But I was unable to find a single regent who would stand up on this issue. I actually found one, but he then resigned from the Board of Regents.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, so that leads me to asking you, what subject area do you think, or is there one particular that you think is the most, suffers the most abuse?
Well, as I said earlier in the show, during the 1970s, or actually it started in the 60s, there were a number of fields that were new interdisciplinary fields that were created. Now, interdisciplinary means that teachers in them and the courses did not have to observe standards that had been developed over 100 years for historians or English teachers of English literature. The new fields were fields like Black Studies. Well, the first Black Studies department was created at Cornell. How was it created? A group of black revolutionaries carrying loaded shotguns occupied the administration offices of the president of Cornell. And the president, being a liberal and therefore a Neville Chamberlain character and appeaser, gave them everything that they demanded, which was not only to create a Black Studies program, but to appoint the professors. The leader of that group, by the way, went on to be the head of the largest teacher pension fund in America. It's a $6 or $10 billion fund.
And you say they were armed?
They had loaded shotguns. And the second Black Studies program was created in San Francisco State through a general strike which shut down the university. And women's studies the same way. I mean, these are all political parties in the university. They have nothing in common with academic study. Now, there have been, the one at Harvard actually is an academic school, although it's all leftists. But Henry Louis Gates, who recently gained some notoriety with his arrest, actually has instituted fairly decent standards for the Harvard School, and the one at Washington University, St. Louis, is decent. But then there are just out-and-out racist schools. The one at Temple teaches Afrocentricity, which is a fraudulent doctrine. I mean, that teaches, for example, that the Greeks stole all their knowledge from black Egyptians. And the Egyptians weren't black to begin with. And the idea that Aristotle stole, which is what they say, stole all his ideas from the library in Alexandria, which was a black library, is ridiculous because the library wasn't built until after Aristotle's death. This kind of nonsense goes on, I mean, it's basically black racism is what Afrocentricity is. These scholars from Temple and now run departments at Villanova and other schools. You know, I talked to Temple trustees about this. They won't touch it because, you know, Philadelphia is a black-run city, and they're terrified of the political repercussions. So they let black students go through a fraudulent academic career, which will qualify them for nothing. You have a PhD in Black Studies except to indoctrinate other people in racism or to work for ACORN or some organization like that.
Now you mentioned
it's just a terrible scam that's being run, and you know, nobody will do anything about it.
You mentioned Gates, and of course he's the one who said that 9/11, those people had it coming more or less, and called him. No. Henry Louis Gates actually. Oh, I thought you were.
You're talking about Ward Churchill.
That's who I'm
yeah, well, Ward Churchill is a good example. Ward Churchill has written a lot of books describing America as a Nazi country. And the reason he called the victims of 9/11 little Eichmanns is because they were business people. And in his view, the business of America is exterminating minorities. In those words. So I regard Ward Churchill not as a controversial figure, but as a certifiable one.
And yet he was a professor.
Well, he was a full professor. He worked 3 hours a week.